Welcome to the next episode of Leadership Unfiltered. And today we're going to have a fantastic conversation about saying yes while staying in our lane. There's a lot of conversation about how to say no.
Yes.
Which we should continue to come back to that conversation. How do you say no and decline things effectively? But today's conversation is about saying yes and doing that in a healthy way. Because there are different extremes. There's the person who says yes to everything because for a multitude of reasons. And then there's also on the other end where they're not saying yes enough. You have to find that balance of saying yes and staying in your lane. And the part about staying in your lane isn't to exclude anything. Probably a better way of framing it would be being deliberate about when you deviate from your lane.
Yes.
Because the fundamental question is, when you say yes to something, you're making a commitment. As a leader, it's important that you understand that you're making that commitment. And you also have to communicate to your team when they say yes to something, that they are making a commitment. Because when you say yes to something, you're binding not only you, but your team. And when your team says yes to something, they're not only just binding themselves, they're also binding their peers because no person is an island. We're all going to need help. And so in effect, when someone on your team says yes to something, they are binding you because you as the leader have to support them. And so having the skill set about how to say yes is so important to leadership and being part of an organization. I'll share a personal story where I said yes to something that I probably shouldn't have.
We've all done that.
I probably shouldn't have said yes to this. I was director at the time, and one of my peers had gotten themselves into a situation, technically. The application that they were responsible for was not operating the way that it needed to. I had been, part of my brand was Mr. Fix-It. I was the Cape Crusader. I was the person who would swoop in, figure out what was going on, sort it all out, and swoop out. AKA, not staying in my lane. Of course, I can see all this in hindsight now.
Yes.
Couldn't see it then. I see it so clearly now. And so because I've gotten so comfortable saying yes to things that are outside of my lane, I said yes to this. Why? My leader asked me to go fix it. Now, what my leader did not do was let my peer, because we both reported to this leader, let my peer know that I was coming. And so I show up attempting, because I'd already said yes to my leader that I would go and fix it, which was not my accountability nor my responsibility. But I said yes, I would do that. And I went over, and my peer was not remotely interested in my help. And the dynamic that unfolded was our relationship was damaged. The relationship that I had with my peer was damaged. Yes. And it took, I want to say, probably a year for it to recover. And I learned a very, so this comes from that lesson where I was like, oh, I said yes to something that I shouldn't have. Or the way that I said yes to it should have been very different.
How do you know now? Can you talk about how you would have done that?
I would have asked more questions about that. 2 questions I would have asked. The first question is this person asking for my help? Because what I've since learned is help that has not been requested is criticism.
Ooh, you might want to say that again.
Yes. Help with all the best intentions that has not been requested is criticism.
Ooh, that's good.
And so, which is exactly how that unfolded. It unfolded as I was coming in because they were failing. And as from a peer-to-peer perspective, that's not my role.
Right.
It's not my role to tell them that they're not being successful. And so I was so far out of my lane. Because there is a way that that could have unfolded and it'd have been wonderful. There are other examples that I can now look back and see where that pattern had been repeating, but it took until that very blatant, very explosive situation for me to go, I need to be different. I need to change. I need to shift. And simply because my leader says, can you go do that? Just because I can does not mean I should.
Yes, that's good.
And so that's where I think a lot of this, how do you say yes in a way that works for you? Not necessarily, I would have said before, how do you say yes in a way that works for everybody? But that's not everybody's not your responsibility.
Yes. Yes.
How do you say yes in a way that works for you?
Yes.
So that you are comfortable and you are able to be what you need to be in those moments.
Yeah, that's good. The part that intrigues me about it, this saying yes is important to understand. It's the staying in your lane that's intriguing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you know when you're out of your lane in saying yes or no? And so for me, I have to be careful. Not that I'm a yes man, but I want to be helpful. And so I'll find myself saying yes to things and trying to be helpful that I probably am now outside of my lane. And so the outside of my lane piece comes from me saying yes to things that I don't have the capability for, that I don't have the time and commitment for.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm overextending myself, or I'm just being pleasing. Right? I'm just saying yes so that, to your point, everybody's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know I'm outside of my lane because it's not really my responsibility, but because I've been asked and I want everybody to be comfortable and I'm in this pleasing tendency that I sometimes have, then I say yes. And all of those takes me outside of my lane. And so those are some of the key things I look for. I'm listening to the request to say, okay, am I just being pleasing in this request? No, because to your point, this is about me and not about pleasing everybody else. Then I'll say, do I really, and this is a big one for me, do I really have the time commitment to be successful? Because I will say yes to things knowing my plate is already full and that I don't plan to take anything off my plate. And so this is just a pile on to everything else, which in most cases I won't be successful because I'm not going to put the time and commit to what I've said yes to. And then the last piece is around capability, which goes back to this pleasing piece. I want everybody to be happy and I want to be helpful. But if I don't stop to say, do I really have the capability to do what they're asking me to do, then I'm going to fail. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's you just have to be true to yourself and honest with yourself to say, I really don't know. I could figure it out.
Yes.
So this isn't about being smart or not, because you can figure it out. But capability is different than just being smart.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so to be honest with yourself and say, do I really have the capability? Or sometimes saying yes is offering them a solution that doesn't include you.
Yes. Yes.
Right? To say there is a different alternative way to do this, and there is maybe someone with better capability to do this. And this isn't shedding or deflecting or not owning the request. This is really being helpful and not being pleasing. So I'm going to separate those two now that I said that out loud.
Yes.
I can be helpful and not be pleasing, and I can be pleasing and not be helpful.
Yes.
But in this case, I can offer up a different resource, better capabilities, and be helpful. And that is not being pleasing and just saying, yes, I'll do it. So that was the part of the conversation. And I was like, I really need to figure out in my own experiences how I've gone outside of my lane in those times I've said yes. And what was the reason I went outside of my lane? It was really those three things: capability, just being pleasing, and when I said yes to things that I really didn't have the time and was committed to doing.
And understanding what is your lane, to your point, is really important.
Yes.
Because the intention behind it isn't to say, that's not my job.
Yes.
That's not the intention.
Right.
Knowing your lane is similar to like you're driving down the road, right? And you're in your lane. You should be in your lane. Now we can talk about whether or not you should be in the left lane or the right lane.
Yes.
But you're in your lane. And if you decide to move lanes, there is a deliberate protocol around it
Yes. Yes.
that you should be following.
That is so good.
There's a signal.
Yes.
It's an explicit signal that you communicate to the world around you that you are now about to change lanes. That's that metaphor.
Including to the people that are already in that lane.
Yes, yes. The people in the lane, people out the lane, and there's even an audio one for the people in the car.
Yes. That's right.
That's why that metaphor is, it's not about, that's not my job. That's not the metaphor. The metaphor is staying in your lane so you can be deliberate about when you move.
Yes.
Knowing your lane is really important. And for me, it's about, is this part of my accountabilities? Is this a part of my responsibility? Is this part of my morality? Is this part of my principles and values? Is this part of my identity? Is this part of, you can go down that list. All of those things help you define your lane.
Yeah.
And you can deviate from those things very deliberately. Yes. And so you can say, oh, I'm going to shift lanes because this is going to give me an opportunity to learn something new. This is going to be an opportunity to challenge myself. There's a promotional opportunity there. There is an opportunity for me to be uncomfortable. And there's also sometimes to say, oh, that lane over there is more comfortable than the one I'm in. Ooh. And given what's going on in my life right now, I need to go and do that. Yes. All of those things are valid. It's really important, to your point, which is really, I'm glad we're starting the conversation. Defining what your lane is so very important so that you can be deliberate about signaling to the universe when you decide to change lanes.
Yeah. I have this title, and it wasn't until you said it about cars that that metaphor came to mind. I mean, when you think about staying in your lane, you would think cars would come up automatically. And it didn't for me until you said that. But now that you said that, there's some funny things bouncing around in my head. And I'll go back to those three things. When I said, do I have the capability? From a car metaphor, whether you should be in the left lane or the right lane, if you are in a clunker, a beater, a car that really don't belong on the highway, please do not get in the fast lane because you do not have the capability.
Yes.
To be in that lane. You just stay in the slow lane.
You stay on the side roads.
That's right. Maybe you should not be on a freeway.
Yes.
But that's something you need to assess before you say, yes. There was an example. We were talking to my father-in-law, and he had gone with a friend to pick up a camper. They took a small SUV down, Jeep. When they picked it up, the guy who was selling the camper said, so how you plan on getting this back home? And he said, well, I brought the Jeep to bring it, to tow it back. And he says, I'm going to tell you right now, do not get on the freeway and do over 55 with that Jeep and this trailer, because that Jeep was not meant. You do not have the capability or capacity to pull this camper with that Jeep. If you go over 55, it won't work. He said, okay, I got it. So they get on the freeway. Father-in-law's in the passenger seat. He says out loud, I'm going to get in the fast lane. And my father-in-law said, I wouldn't recommend you do that. He was already doing 55, which was the max. Mm-hmm. The seller of the camper told him he could go with that size SUV. He decided he was going to try it anyway. And my father-in-law said that man put his foot to the floor. And all you heard was the motor. It wasn't going any faster. But it was loud and giving as much power as it could. And he politely said, I think you need to stay in your lane. So there's a real world example of staying in your lane when you don't have the capability or the capacity to do more, even though somebody said, yes, you could do that. You say, no, I'm going to stay in my lane.
You make a good point about the distinction between capability and capacity.
Yes.
Because they're different.
Yes, they are different.
Yes, because capability has ability in the word. It's like, do you have the skills?
Yes.
Do you have the know-how? Do you have the tools to do it? And capacity is, do you have the resources? Do you have the time?
Yes, and that's that commitment piece
Yes.
that I talked about. Yes.
To do it.
Yes.
Right? And both of those are valid reasons to say no to something.
Yes.
But in terms of saying yes and changing lanes, you want to be very clear about when you change lane, what are the capabilities and the capacities that you're going to need to be in that new lane.
Right.
Which may be more or less.
Yes.
Depending on if you're moving into the left lane or moving into the right.
And I love your point about signaling.
Yes.
That is so key, in which is where you started your story with having the conflict with your peer.
Yeah.
Was that you moved into that lane. There was no clear signaling from you, from the boss, from any of the parties involved that this was going to happen.
Yes.
And when you don't signal, there's accidents that occur in the real world.
Yes.
That you could have, potentially avoided if you properly signaled and was very intentional about when.
Yeah.
Because even though you signal, doesn't still give you the right.
Yeah.
To make the shift.
True.
You need to signal and then be intentional about when you make the shift.
Yes.
And that the other person also sees the signal.
Yes.
Because if you, another automobile story, right? Talking to a guy who was born and, fairly new in the U.S., got his driver's license and was driving, came to work and was very upset at the people who did not let him into their lane. He wanted to change lanes. Mm-hmm. And his whole argument was, I put on my left lane indicator. He said, they saw my left lane indicator and they just still did not let me over. Mm-hmm. And he was upset with that. In other words, when I put on my left lane indicator and you see that, you're supposed to let me in. And I said, well, let me just share with you how American drivers drive. And that is a courtesy. Ain't the law. It's not the way it should be. But the way they feel is they get to let you in whether they see it or not. It doesn't matter to them whether you indicated that you were getting in that lane. They get to choose whether you get to go. So it's just,
I've said to people, it's called a turn signal, not a turn request for permission.
Right.
I am signaling. Yes. Now, granted, we should probably both understand the Pauli exclusion principle, which is two fermions cannot operate and exist in the same space at the same time.
Yes.
But it is not a turn request for permission.
Yes.
It is a turn signal.
Yes.
The signal is important.
Yes.
Making sure that you're trying not to run into somebody is equally important. Mm-hmm. But it is not a turn request for permission. I'm not requesting permission from you. I am signaling to you what's about to happen so that you can in turn make good choices for yourself. One of the reasons why it's so important to understand that, to say, I am changing lanes. This is something I have chosen to do. I am communicating to you that this is about to happen so that you can respond. And why it's so important that that happen before or while you're saying yes is to keep the accidents from happening. Yes. Is to keep those collisions from happening. It's fascinating to me because, again, I can look back and go, oh, yeah, there was a missed signal there. Or I didn't signal. Or I missed their signal, which can also happen, where it's really important to be explicit about it, to not go off of just, well, of course, that's what would happen. For me, while I can see, getting in the left-hand lane, people who should not be in the left-hand lane, being in the left-hand lane irks people. I don't own a car anymore, so that irks me less. Mm-hmm. But the thing that irks me is people who are in a walkway and just stop. Like you're walking into the supermarket through the doors that swing open, and they get there and they just stop. What I'm now realizing as part of this conversation, what irritates me isn't that they stop, because they're in my lane.
Yes. Clearly.
Clearly in my lane. Because if they were in somebody else's lane, I wouldn't care. But they're clearly in my lane and they're not signaling. So what's really irking me about it isn't that they stop, because, you have your thing that you need to do, is that there's no signal that they were going to stop. Yes. That I have to be the one to take on the responsibility of paying attention to your actions. Ooh. Because you haven't signaled. Yes. Because there is no horn. Yeah. Because if you violate, whether you're right or wrong in the situation, I'm not speaking to that, but if you violate an expected behavior while you're driving, there's this horn. There's this thing that communicates to you, hey, you did something that I didn't appreciate. Now, there are other things that you can do to communicate that, but we're not going to go there. Yes. But that's the thing that's missing for me, is that there isn't a way other than yelling at the person, which I try really hard not to do, or running into the person, which I also try not to do, but I'm less concerned about now, that there isn't a signal to let that person know that, hey, you're violating a social construct. Yeah. You're violating the lane metaphor. Mm-hmm. And so how that can play out in terms of how you're interacting with others in your company and in your organization is other people may be doing that. If you're saying yes to something because someone else stopped, if you're saying yes, oh, my leader has asked me to do this, or my peer has asked me to do this, or my team came to me and asked me to do this, because someone else is in our lane and has stopped, you want to be really explicit about signaling. Otherwise, you'll take on that additional responsibility and it will either go well or bad. And if it goes well, you will not get the credit. And if it goes bad, you will take the blame.
Yes. And be clear about this yes. When you say yes, it is a commitment.
Yes.
Right? That you have just committed yourself to whatever that request is.
Yes.
You have said yes to now that you need to own. And so it is understanding your lane, but now shifting to the first part of our topic, making sure you are fully understanding and fully committing to what you're saying yes to.
Yep.
Make sure you're asking all the pertinent questions up front. Yes. Make sure you have all the clarity you need. Make sure you have the resources that you need. You want to make sure if you say yes, that you can be successful.
Yep.
And to blindly say yes, to say yes because you want to be pleasing, you could possibly be setting yourself and your team and your organization up for failure.
Yes.
Because you haven't fully thought through what yes means. And if there are better alternatives to you blindly saying yes to that request. So the yes part is important. Make sure you're understanding what you're saying and yes to and committing to.
Yes.
But as you are doing that, make sure you are staying in your lane and signaling to everyone who's involved with that yes decision that you've just made, that everybody can be successful.
Yeah.
And so both parts are key.
And getting that commitment, because if you're going to say yes to something, I want to say again, if something's squarely in your lane and you're saying yes to that, keep moving. Right. Keep moving. If it's something that's outside of your lane, then you need to make sure that you get all of that clarity, all of that shared understanding around what it is you're saying yes to, and make sure you understand what it is that you're expecting to get out of it. Yes. There have been times where I said yes because I thought I was earning quote unquote credit with this person. Yeah. And it's like, oh, if I say yes to this, then, they'll think positively of me. Yeah. And if I say yes to this, then they will think of me when the next opportunity comes up. Or if I say yes to this, then this is a way for me to demonstrate that, I'm really good. Yeah. But I didn't say any of that. Yeah. I didn't articulate any of that.
Yes.
And what can happen, and while this has happened to me some of the times, and some of the times it has all of those things played out. They did think better of me. They did put me in for opportunities. But I didn't explicitly say any of that. And other times I was just seen as the help. And unless you articulate it, unless you actually say the words, then you don't know which situation you're in. And you're putting this effort into something that's outside your lane, and you're not understanding the benefit. And I'm not saying it needs to be a quid pro quo. It needs to be a this for that. And I'm going to do this for you if you do something for me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be explicit about what you're expecting to get out of it.
Yes.
If what you're expecting to get out of it is a promotion, then you need to say that.
Right.
If what you're looking to get out of it is the experience, then you need to say that. If what you're looking to get out of it is the opportunity to try something new and fail safely, then you need to say that.
Yes. One thing you just made me thought of, I know we're at time. There's the request that comes in that you say yes to, and there's the raising of your hand to say yes.
Ooh.
Two different things.
Yes.
When the request comes in and you say yes, all those things we've talked about, signaling, knowing your lane.
Yes.
When you raise your hand, when you said, is there opportunity, promotion, I want them to consider me next time, that could be you raising your hand and saying, yes, I'll do that. And when you do that, I would venture to say you need to check for the lane even more so.
I completely 100% agree, because the moment you raise your hand, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, because you should.
Yes.
100% of the responsibility shifts to you.
Yes.
It is no longer shared.
That's right.
And so all of that is now your responsibility to make sure all of that's checked off and it works for you.
Yes.
I would recommend that you do as much of that as possible before you raise your hand.
That's right. Yes.
Because raising your hand and going, psych, I didn't really mean that.
Right. Yes.
Oh my goodness, how old am I? I just said psych. That is a very good point. And yes, we are at time, but we need to unpack that one.
Yes.
How to raise your hand. Ooh. That is a good topic for us. And so we're closing out this episode, and we talked about how to say yes from your lane, right? How to say yes from the lane that you're in, knowing that saying yes would signal to you and others that you are changing lanes. And how do you do that and avoid the pitfalls in a way that's healthy for you, in a way that gives you an opportunity to get what you're looking for out of it. Mm-hmm. And so that they also have an opportunity to get what they're looking for as well. And this is such an important topic, because a lot of time we talk about how to say no. Mm-hmm. And I fundamentally believe that there is equal value in learning how to say yes. With that, we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Leadership Unfiltered. We hope you have found value in our conversation and are ready to take action in your leadership journey. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. And don't forget to connect with us on social media for more leadership insights and resources. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.